Welcome to Strategic Spark, where we help you, well, ignite your strategic thinking.
Yeah. Huh.
So think about this. Um, your team is, say, weeks into developing a new product,
Okay.
and all of a sudden the data is telling you to change direction.
Right.
Now do you need to go through all those rounds of approvals just to make that pivot? Or can your team just make the call?
Hmm.
That question, believe it or not, reveals a lot about a company's culture.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going to be sparking some thinking around today. Building a company culture of autonomy and ownership
Uh-huh.
based on some really interesting insights from Quantif.
It's so fascinating to see how those traditional corporate structures with their layers upon layers of approvals often stifle innovation. Employees get frustrated, things slow to a crawl.
Yeah.
It can really just zap a team's motivation.
Yeah, when people feel like they're not trusted to make decisions, it definitely shows.
Totally.
It's like they're stuck in bureaucratic quicksand.
Right.
They have the insights, the
Yeah.
ideas, the drive to adapt.
Yeah.
But the system itself just bogs them down.
Yeah.
The article we're looking at today points to Spotify as a great example of a company that embraces an autonomous work culture.
Mm-hmm.
What can we learn from their approach?
Well, their approach is all about empowering their teams to work independently and make decisions quickly. So their structure is built around what they call squads. These are like small cross-functional teams responsible for specific products or features.
Yeah.
And what's key here is that these squads have the authority to make decisions about their work without needing to constantly check in with higher-ups.
So it's less about rigid hierarchy
Hmm.
and more about creating these nimble, self-sufficient teams that can respond to changes in the market or customer needs much faster.
Right, exactly.
It makes sense, especially in today's constantly evolving business landscape.
Yeah, and that's where these modern strategy management platforms like Quantum Strategy AI can play a critical role, I think. These platforms provide real-time goal tracking, decision-making frameworks, progress dashboards that help eliminate those bottlenecks we were just talking about.
Right.
They essentially create the infrastructure for autonomy to thrive.
So how does a platform like Quantum Strategy AI actually help teams achieve that balance between autonomy and alignment with company goals?
Well, it all comes down to enabling data-informed decisions without needing someone constantly looking over everyone's shoulders.
Hmm.
For example, Quantum Strategy AI has this feature called cascading goals,
Uh-huh.
and it links team objectives to the company's larger strategy so everyone can see how their individual work contributes to the bigger picture.
So that shared understanding creates a sense of ownership and purpose, right? Because everyone can connect the dots between their day-to-day tasks and the company's overall success.
Precisely. And, if a team needs to make a decision, they have the data and the frameworks right there in the platform to guide them. They don't have to waste time chasing down approvals or searching for information.
And it sounds like this transparency also plays a big part in accountability. When everyone can see what's happening, what's working, what needs to be adjusted, it fosters a more collaborative and less hierarchical approach.
It absolutely does. This ties into some Gartner research that found that 82% of workers want to be treated like people, not just cogs in a machine.
Right.
Autonomy is about recognizing and respecting people's intelligence, creativity, and desire to make a meaningful contribution. It's not just about efficiency, it's about humanity.
So autonomy isn't just about happier employees. It's actually a strategic advantage for companies, isn't it?
Yeah.
It creates a more engaged workforce and a more agile and innovative organization overall.
Absolutely. The article highlights how companies like Google and Spotify, which have famously embraced autonomy, are consistently recognized for both their innovative cultures and impressive results. Google, with its collaborative, people-driven approach, constantly at the top of best company culture lists while also developing groundbreaking products. And Spotify's model of scaled autonomy, where those empowered squads are the building blocks of the organization, allows them to adapt and innovate at a remarkable pace.
It's interesting how those companies, with their strong emphasis on autonomy, are often the ones leading the way in their industries.
Yeah, and speaking of leading the way, if you're looking for tools to help you build a more autonomous and data-driven organization, I encourage you to check out Quantive Strategy AI. You can learn more at quantive.com.
That's a great resource for our listeners who are interested in exploring how technology can support cultural change. So we've seen that autonomy can lead to happier employees and better results. But building that kind of culture within an organization, that's where things get really interesting, right? The article lays out 6 key steps to achieve that, and I think they're worth diving into. What's the first step on this journey to building a more autonomous company culture?
Well, the first step is to set clear expectations. That means establishing clear objectives and a shared understanding of what success looks like.
Right. The article mentions using goal-setting frameworks like SMART goals or OKRs. Could you break down what those are and how they can promote autonomy within a team or organization?
So SMART goals are a classic framework for setting goals that are, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And then you have OKRs, objectives, and key results, which are all about ambitious goals and quantifiable outcomes. Both frameworks emphasize clarity and transparency, which are foundational for autonomy to work effectively.
So instead of just saying increase sales, you'd have a specific sales target, a timeline for achieving it, and a clear method for tracking progress. Everyone knows exactly what they're working towards and how their individual efforts contribute to the shared objective.
Exactly. And a platform like Quantitative Strategy AI can be incredibly helpful here. It can facilitate this goal-setting process by linking those goals and making them visible to everyone involved. This kind of transparency eliminates ambiguity and ensures that everyone is on the same page, working towards those clearly defined objectives.
So it sounds like that transparency is key to avoiding a lot of the frustration and confusion that can sometimes arise when people aren't sure what they're supposed to be focusing on or how their work fits into the bigger picture.
Absolutely. And, when people feel like they understand the why behind their work, they're more likely to take ownership and be proactive in finding solutions.
So setting those clear expectations, using frameworks like SMART goals or OKRs, and ensuring that everyone has access to the information they need, that's the foundation for building a culture of autonomy. What's the next step?
Well, the next step is to implement decision-making frameworks.
This is about clearly defining who is responsible for what decisions, right? So you avoid confusion and unnecessary delays.
Exactly. When people know who has the authority to make which decisions, it streamlines the entire process. It empowers individuals and teams to take ownership of their work and move forward without constantly seeking permission.
It eliminates that who do I need to ask for permission problem that can stifle progress and demotivate people.
Right. And once again, a platform like Quantitative Strategy AI can play a helpful role here. It provides tools for clearly defining those decision-making roles and responsibilities within the platform so that everyone has that clarity from the outset.
So we've talked about setting clear expectations, defining decision-making frameworks. What's the next step in building an autonomous culture?
The third step is all about facilitating feedback loops. This is crucial for making sure that autonomous teams stay aligned and on track. Regular check-ins are a great way to allow team members to share progress, identify roadblocks, and get support when needed.
And these check-ins shouldn't feel like micromanaging, right?
Right.
It's going to be about creating a space for open communication, collaborative problem solving, and shared learning.
Absolutely. The goal is to create an environment where people feel comfortable bringing up challenges and working together to find solutions. And this is another area where technology can be really helpful. For example, Quantitative Strategy AI provides tools that facilitate these productive feedback loops. Teams can use things like collaborative whiteboards, interactive dashboards, automatic goal updates to stay informed and aligned without feeling like they're constantly being monitored.
It's about striking that balance between freedom and accountability.
Yeah.
You want people to feel empowered to make decisions and take ownership, but you also need to ensure that everyone is working towards the same overarching goals.
That's exactly right. The fourth step, removing day-to-day barriers, builds on that idea. It's about making sure that teams have the resources and support they need to succeed.
So this is where those regular check-in meetings become even more valuable, not just for status updates, but also for proactively identifying and addressing any obstacles that might be hindering progress.
Exactly. It's about fostering a culture where people feel comfortable asking for help and where potential roadblocks are addressed before they turn into major problems. And again, Quantitative Strategy AI can be a helpful tool here. The platform can help flag potential bottlenecks and keep teams informed about any potential issues that might arise.
This is a really important point. Autonomy doesn't mean throwing people into the deep end and expecting them to figure everything out on their own. It's about empowering people to do their best work while providing the support they need to overcome challenges.
And that brings us to the fifth step, coaching, not judging. Okay. It's about shifting from a culture of blame to a culture of growth and improvement.
So instead of criticizing people for making mistakes, the focus should be on learning from those mistakes and finding solutions together. It's about seeing setbacks as opportunities for learning and development.
Exactly. And data can play a key role in this process. Instead of relying on subjective opinions, teams can use data-driven insights to objectively assess performance and identify areas for improvement.
And I imagine a platform like Quantitative Strategy AI can be incredibly helpful in providing those data-driven insights in a way that's accessible and actionable.
Absolutely. Leaders can use the platform's analytic to identify trends, uncover root causes of problems, and then work collaboratively with their teams to find solutions.
It's about using data as a tool for empowerment, not punishment. It's about creating a culture where people feel safe to experiment, to take risks, and to learn from their experiences.
Precisely. And finally, we come to the sixth step, which is often overlooked, but it's so important, celebrating wins.
Right. This is about recognizing and appreciating both individual and team successes, big or small,
Hmm.
right? It's about creating a culture of positive reinforcement.
Exactly. Celebrating wins reinforces a sense of ownership and pride in the work. And it creates a more positive and motivating work environment. And yes, you guessed it, Quantum Strategy AI has features that make it easy to track and celebrate those achievements, big or small.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, but I think the key takeaway is that building an autonomous culture is really about creating a work environment where people feel trusted, empowered, and supported. It's about creating a space where they can bring their best selves to work and contribute their unique talents to the organization.
And it's not just about creating a feel-good environment. It's about driving results and achieving strategic goals. It really is about driving results and achieving strategic goals.
Yeah, it's about aligning individual aspirations with organizational objectives in a way that benefits everyone.
Uh-huh.
Now, we've talked about these 6 steps for building an autonomous culture and how a platform like Quantum Strategy AI can be a valuable tool in that process. But I'm curious, how does all of this connect to strategy management as a whole?
That's a great question. The article we're looking at today emphasizes the always-on strategy model, which is all about continuous execution and progress tracking. It's about creating a dynamic strategic plan that's constantly evolving based on new data and insights.
And how does that tie in with autonomous teams? Because at first glance, it seems like always-on strategy would require a lot of top-down control and oversight.
Well, actually, it's quite the opposite. In an always-on strategy model, you're constantly monitoring progress, adapting to changes, and making sure that everyone is aligned with the overall strategic goals. And autonomous teams, because they're empowered to make decisions and adapt quickly, are better equipped to execute on a strategy that's constantly evolving.
So it's like those autonomous teams become these mini strategy hubs within the organization.
Yeah.
They're closer to the action, they have the data they need to make informed decisions, and they can pivot quickly when necessary.
Exactly. And that's where a platform like Quantum Strategy AI becomes even more valuable.
Because it provides that central platform to connect all those moving parts.
That's right. It allows leaders to track goals, monitor progress, and see how the work of different teams is interconnected. And it allows those teams to stay aligned with each other and with the overall strategy without needing constant oversight.
So it's about giving everyone the tools and the visibility they need to steer the ship in the right direction collectively.
Precisely. And it can be a game changer for organizations that are struggling to keep up with the pace of change in their industries.
So if a company wants to create this kind of autonomous, data-driven culture where everyone feels empowered to contribute to the strategy, where should they start?
Well, article suggests starting with a technological upgrade, especially if they're still relying on outdated methods like spreadsheets or disconnected tools.
Because those old systems just can't support the kind of agility and transparency that's needed for a dynamic, always-on strategy to thrive.
Yeah, they create bottlenecks, slow down decision-making, and make it difficult to track progress effectively. So investing in a modern strategy management platform is often a crucial first step in building a more agile and autonomous organization.
And a platform like Quantitative Strategy AI could be a great option for companies looking to make that leap. For our listeners who are interested in learning more, you can visit quantive.com to explore the platform and its features.
Yeah, it provides the foundation you need to empower your teams, align everyone around shared goals, and create a culture of continuous improvement.
And ultimately, that leads to better results for both the organization and the people who work there.
Absolutely. It's about creating a win-win situation where everyone feels empowered to contribute to the company's success.
I like that. A win-win.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to emphasize that this whole idea of autonomy and ownership isn't just some trendy management fad.
Right. It's a fundamental shift in how we think about work and how we create a more engaging and fulfilling work environment for everyone involved.
It's about recognizing that people are at their best when they feel trusted, empowered, and supported to do their best work. And it's about creating systems and structures that allow that to happen.
It's about seeing people not as cogs in a machine, but as valuable contributors with unique talents and perspectives to offer.
Exactly. So let's not underestimate the power of giving people the freedom to make decisions, to take ownership, and to contribute their unique talents to the organization.
Okay.
But as we wrap up this part of our conversation, I'm curious, what are some of the potential challenges or pitfalls that companies might encounter as they try to build a more autonomous culture? And how can they navigate those challenges successfully?
That's a really important question because while the benefits of autonomy are clear, it's not always easy to implement in practice. One common challenge is that some leaders may be hesitant to give up control. They may be used to making all the decisions and may be reluctant to trust their teams to make those decisions on their own.
So how do you overcome that resistance to change? Because if leadership isn't fully onboarded, it's going to be very difficult to build that culture of trust and empowerment that's so essential for autonomy to work.
You're absolutely right. It has to start at the top. Leaders need to understand the benefits of autonomy, not just for the employees, but for the organization as a whole. They need to be willing to let go of that command and control mentality and embrace a more collaborative and empowering approach.
And that can be a difficult shift for some leaders to make. It requires a certain level of vulnerability and trust in their teams.
It does. And it requires a willingness to learn and adapt. Leaders need to be open to feedback from their teams and be willing to adjust their approach as needed.
So it's not just about telling teams to be more autonomous. It's about creating a culture of psychological safety where people feel comfortable taking risks, making mistakes, and learning from those experiences.
Exactly. And that takes time and effort. It's about building relationships, fostering open communication, and creating a shared understanding of what autonomy means within the context of the organization.
And it's about providing the right tools and resources to support that journey.
Absolutely. Technology can play a critical role in facilitating communication, tracking progress, and providing data-driven insights that can help teams make better decisions.
So it sounds like building an autonomous culture is a journey, not a destination. It's an ongoing process of learning, adapting, and evolving.
And it's a journey worth taking because when done right, autonomy can unlock incredible potential within an organization.
It can lead to happier, more engaged employees, more innovative products and services, and ultimately a more successful and adaptable organization.
It really is. And it's something I think that everybody listening should consider, regardless of their role or industry.
Absolutely. Even if you're not in a leadership position, you could still advocate for greater autonomy within your team or department.
Yeah, you can start by asking questions like, what decisions could we be making more effectively at our level? Or how can we streamline our processes to reduce bottlenecks and empower people to take more ownership?
Those are great questions to spark a conversation, and even small changes can make a big difference in creating a more empowering and fulfilling work environment.
Exactly. It's about shifting the mindset from waiting for permission to taking initiative.
And that shift in mindset can be incredibly powerful, not just for individuals, but for the entire organization.
For sure, it can lead to a more agile, more innovative, and ultimately more successful company culture.
Well said. So for anyone who is feeling inspired to ignite some of these positive changes within their own organizations, I want to remind you that Quantive offers a powerful platform that can support this journey.
Yeah, their strategy management platform, Strategy AI, provides those tools and frameworks you need to foster autonomy, drive alignment, and achieve your strategic goals.
You can learn more about Quantive and their platform by visiting quantive.com. It's a great resource for anyone who's ready to spark a transformation within their organization.
And I would add that even beyond the technology itself, the insights and frameworks we've discussed today can be incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. Think about the 6 steps to building an autonomous culture. Setting clear expectations, implementing decision-making frameworks, facilitating feedback loops, removing day-to-day barriers, coaching instead of judging, and celebrating wins.
Those principles can be applied in any organization, regardless of size or industry.
It's about fundamentally changing how we approach work
Yeah.
and how we empower people to do their best.
Yeah, and it's a journey that's worth taking.
Well, I think this has been a truly enlightening exploration of autonomy and ownership in the workplace. We've covered a lot of ground, from the benefits of autonomy to the steps you can take to build a more empowered culture within your own organization.
And we've explored how technology can be a powerful ally in this journey, helping to facilitate communication, track progress, and provide data-driven insights that can inform better decision-making.
It's been a fascinating conversation, and I hope our listeners feel inspired to spark some positive changes in their own work lives.
I hope so too, because at the end of the day, it's about creating a work environment where everyone feels valued, empowered, and excited to contribute to something bigger than themselves.
Beautifully said. And for our listeners, I want to leave you with this final thought. Think about your own workplace. How are decisions made? Where are the opportunities to increase autonomy and ownership within your team or your organization?
What small steps can you take today to start building a more empowered and fulfilling work environment for yourself and those around you?
Those are powerful questions to reflect on. And remember, change starts with a spark.
So go out there and ignite that spark.
Thank you for listening to Strategic Spark.